This is the Cliff Yates Show. Personal growth, motivation, inspiration, and philosophies for a great life.
Hey everybody, this is the Cliff Yates Show. You are in the right place. I have the hustle. Do you have the hustle? I have the hustle. I don't know when I got the hustle first, but I still have the hustle. I'm age 65 and I still have the hustle. So I would encourage you, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, I want that to be encouraging to you, that you don't have to be 65, 70, 75, 80 and lose that hustle. It doesn't have to wane. It doesn't have to go away. It's not going away with me. So I am in the hustle. I love it. That's the juice, is in the hustle. And that's where the enjoyment is. It is in the journey. It's not in getting there. It really is, as corny as it sounds, it is in the journey and not in the getting, but on the way. That's where the joy is. And so, but I will say, you do you. You do you. This is just me. And if you're a hustler, I want to hear what your hustle is. Let me know in the comments. Subscribe to the channel. If it's on YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified. And if you're on a podcast platform, hey, listen, subscribe to the channel because it tells those platforms that the show is being interacted with, and they'll show it to more people who are in this space of self-improvement, motivation, inspiration, personal growth. So, but you do you. You know, success is the teacher who teaches third grade in Iowa, because that's what she wants to do. Success is the actor or actress in Manhattan who is auditioning for Broadway shows, because that's what they want to do. If they get a great big Broadway show, if they win a Tony, that's great. But the joy is going to be in the process. And once you find joy in the process, there is no greater piece of life fulfillment that you will get. Listen, I have the hustle. I don't know where it came from to begin with, but I have it. I have it now. It's not waning. I don't even think it's peaked yet. I don't have the hustle. I'm financially independent. I don't have to do anything, but I do it for the joy of it. And listen, if you haven't made it to a point where you're financially independent, you can still be joyful in your pursuit. You can have a job doing something else. That can be your seed money for your author business, for writing your book. It can be seed money for producing your movie. It can be your seed money for producing a play, writing a play, whatever creative endeavor that you're in, for starting your own creative business, your own YouTube channel, your own news media outlet, whatever that might be that you have a passion for. Now, I know my creative hustle, my creative drive started long ago when I was in high school. I had that creative drive when I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be on all the sports teams, but I couldn't be physically. That was not what I was meant to be doing. But I ended up being the announcer for our high school basketball games. I loved doing that. I loved the process of doing that. Not just doing it that day. I loved preparing. I loved showing up, getting the equipment ready. I loved doing all that stuff. I loved being in the high school plays. I liked everything about that creative outlet. I was driven for that. I loved the rehearsals. I loved the memorizing the lines and then trying to do the scene better. I loved the show itself, and I loved the after the show. I loved the camaraderie of everybody in the cast. But I had that creative drive, and I don't know where that came from. I set up a basketball court at our house in the driveway. I had lights, I had lines on the driveway painted in there so we could have basketball games to shoot foul shots that were really, that were regulation. And I don't know where that came from, but I had that. I don't know, luckily my parents had a Super 8 movie camera, and luckily they allowed me to make movies, and they helped me pay for the development of those movies. But I loved creating those movies. I mean, I loved the process of doing it. And at the time, 12, 14, 16 years old, I didn't even know there was a way that you can monetize that creative effort, that creative drive. And it wasn't even in my mind. All I knew is that I loved doing it. And back in those days, you could not, there was no software for editing. So I would get my cast together. I would get like the neighborhood kids, kids from my school, kids in the neighborhood, and I would dress them up in old suit coats. give them a shotgun. And I would film them going towards the front door. Then I would move the camera outside. Then I would signal to them, come on out. And then I would film them coming through the door. So I was cutting as I was shooting. Little did I know I was cutting a movie right then, is what I was doing, because there was no way of editing myself. So I had to make sure that the cutting was in the shooting. So then when it was developed, it looked like one scene that was happening. But, I had the drive back then, the creative drive to do that. But, like I always say, you do you. You do what you think you want to do. This is me. I have that drive, and it's alive today. And so I hope that encourages you others out there who may be younger. When you get to 80 or 90, you can still have that drive if that's what you want to do. The important thing is taking the journey to get there. I would say probably what's happened now is my creative drive, technology has caught up with me, right? Because back then, all through my high school and 10, 15 years after high school, there was no internet. I had no cell phone. I didn't have the internet at my hand. I didn't have it. I didn't have this technology. I didn't have the ability to access information worldwide on the World Wide Web back then. And so that's something that has come along later. And many of my generation still, I have some friends on flip phones. They have no interest in evolving into learning more about what's happening and what is going on, or even being involved in these platforms. The opportunity that we have today to do what I'm doing right now, which is put out a podcast that's available to anyone in the world. This was not even possible or conceivable in that time. But I always had that drive to be creative. So I remember we had a football field out beside my house. We had a lot. And so I would create games out there. I would take paint and I would paint in the end zones. I would paint midfield in there and yardage lines. I would mow that field and then paint it myself. And we would have games on the weekends. It was crazy great. I always wanted to create these events. And so even back then, even though I was doing stand-up comedy, and that was part of my creative drive, I didn't know anything about comedy clubs or how you would do that. Even though I was performing routines that I copied off television, I would do them for the class. My creative drive, it was just coming in all sorts of outlets. I remember creating this boxing event in my basement. I took a corner of the basement. I made a ring. I had a ring with ropes, and I had lights on this ring, and I had a sign when you came down the stairs of my basement of, Mooney versus Yates. I created this big boxing event of me versus this other kid, Mike Mooney. And so I created all this buzz about this big boxing match, and I had a camera set up. People could sit. I had chairs, and I had flyers, and I built it up in the neighborhood and in school. People came for the big event. And now it didn't go the way I planned. I got my ass kicked. Mike Mooney kicked my ass. I got beat at the boxing match. I wasn't happy about it either. I was not a good loser back then. But, the joy was in creating an event, creating the flyers, creating the ring, creating the lights, creating the chairs for people to come to that event. And I carried that with me later when I would produce comedy shows in Los Angeles when I got to LA. I just had the creative drive. So I'm not really sure where it came from. I still have it. And if you have it, I want to hear about it. Leave it in the comments. Tell me what your hustle is. And I had this hustle, and I'm doing this today. This is, and you can tell, I hope that you can tell, this is from the heart today. If you're watching on YouTube, you can tell. And if you're listening on a podcast platform, maybe you can't tell because you wouldn't know. But I have no teleprompter. I didn't even take notes today. I didn't do show notes. So I'm speaking from the heart off the top of my head. I just sat down at the camera and the mic because I was watching content on the internet, on YouTube, of Gary Vaynerchuk, who is a marketing genius to this day. And he was talking about trying to be 85% in the positivity, focusing on positive content, 85% because of the 15-20 we can get from the news. Well, if we don't watch it, it'll be 85 news, bad stuff, and 20 positivity. So we need to flip that around. And if we flip that around, then our life takes on a whole new perspective. And we see all sorts of opportunities. Not that we shouldn't be aware. We should check in. We should know what's going on. It's important to know so that we, and I think the best the best way that we can hold on to our ability to be an entrepreneur, to have our freedoms, we've got to pay attention to who's running the government, and we should research these candidates and make sure that we are knowing who's running and who we need to vote for, and that their values and policies are in line with ours. If you're in the hustle and you're an entrepreneur and you believe in our freedom and our marketplace and our freedom of speech, we have to pay attention to these things. Now, in my mind, we don't get too obsessed with that because it can take us down a real negative hole. And so Gary Vee was talking about this, and he made some great points. And what it means is this. If you have a negative parent, you have a negative family member, you have a negative coworker, it doesn't mean you shun them or shut them out of your life. No, what it means is, if you talk to that negative parent and they're a negative drain on your core energy, what it means is instead of talking to them 5 days a week for 2 hours a day, maybe we talk to them 3 days a week for an hour a day. We don't let that drain us. We don't cut that contact off. We try as best we can to have a positive impact on us instead of that being flipped the other way around. And so when I heard that, I was inspired to get on the mic, to get on the camera and create this episode about the hustle. I got the hustle, and if you get the hustle, I want to hear about it. Write it down in the comments. I want to know what your hustle is today. That doesn't mean it's going to be that hustle tomorrow, but you know what? We can control what our hustle is today. And Gary Vee was talking about how we get caught up in yesterday, and it's good to know from yesterday and learn from it and carry that knowledge with us. That's the value of living. See, when you're 70, you bring those 70 years with you to the next year. So at age 71, you're bringing 70 years of experience, but we're living, and our positive impact is now. It's today, and that's not tomorrow. So when we focus on today, we can just create such joy. But we need, if that's what you want to do, we need to set a destination. We need to get in that boat. We got to untie the lines, head out of the harbor, start heading for that destination that we picked. We know where we are, we know where we want to go, and we got to start. That's the joy. The joy. Now, if we get there, that's joyful too. And the game is never over. It never stops. When we get to that, hey, we celebrate. We celebrate, but not for too long. Not for very long. We celebrate what we've accomplished, but then, hey, we're on this peak and we see the other one. Hey, let's go for that one, because the joy is in the achieving or the journey to get there. It is joyful. It doesn't mean we get caught up in work and that's all we're focused on is just working, and we're forgetting everything and everybody else. No, but when we're joyful creators, you know what that does? It affects family, friends, those around us in a positive way. Joy is contagious. Positivity is contagious. You know what it is when somebody walks into the room that they have that. But you do you, and you don't beat yourself up. You know, one thing Gary said, and I actually had to do this show twice. I didn't have my sound plugged into the right portal, so I'm actually doing a redo. Even though there's no script and I didn't write any notes, it's from the heart. I'm doing from the heart again. And so what Gary did say was, don't beat yourself up. Don't be so critical. I know what he said, which was so important that I have yet to completely learn, but I really want to get better and better every day in this. Enjoy the process. Be involved in process. Now, failure is feedback, and we should learn from it. But we should be more focused on productivity in the process and not about the results. Results will come if we keep producing. We have to keep putting out the quantity. And another quote that he said was that, quantity has its own quality. So we should always be striving to put out the best product that we can. Maybe we strive to perfection, but we don't let that hamper us into putting our valuable content out there. We do the best. What can we do? How good can we make this? Then we get it out there, and then we create again. But we don't want to get hampered. We don't want paralysis analysis where we're not putting out because it's not quite right yet. Get it done. Get it out there. Do the best you can. And there's been no better time to be an entrepreneur and to be a creator. We're all creators. If you're a plumber, you're a creator. Our Creator created us to be a creator. That's the difference between us and the animals. We can be creators, and we're social, and we can discern, we can reason, And that's the joy in life. Let's go back to the sailboat. Where was I? I was out of the harbor and I was on my way to the destination. And so we set a goal. We set a point. We have our navigation tools of getting to where we want to go. We have a plan. We've left the harbor, destination, got the chart, got the compass. Now along the way, though, something comes over the radio. Hey, over here in the marina, there's a party. We're offering you can tie up for free electricity, water. We're having carnival. Do you want to come? Yes, you change your destination along the way. That can happen. It's a metaphor. What I'm saying is to setting a goal, big goal. Set big, outrageous goals. There's nothing more exciting than a goal that's so outrageous we can't even conceive of it. And you know what? If we get there, that's all the greater. But the juice and the joy is in the journey. It really is. And so the important thing is to untie, get out of the harbor, even though our initial destination may not be the final. We may change along the way, or we may change along the way a couple times and still end up at our final destination that we originally set. It happens all the time, but it sets a lot in motion in the universe if we do these things. But I've had to learn to decouple from putting so much importance on the results. I get caught up in the results. I did that as a comedian. Instead of focusing more on my performance, on what I have power to do, even though in comedy, you have to pay attention to how your audience is reacting. Obviously, if no one's laughing, that's feedback that we need to pay attention to. But I put too much value on that, or I put too much importance on that, the results, and judging myself by that. And I think we need to be more, and I was trying to get to this earlier, we have to be kinder with ourselves. Do not be so judgmental on yourself. You know what? If you go to a seminar and you're in the back and you're taking notes and you start thinking to yourself, wow, you know what? When this ends, I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm not going to interact with anybody. I'm not going to change business cards with anybody. And you're going to judge yourself on that. Flip that around. Say, you know what? Look what I did, man. I scheduled myself to come to this seminar. I got on the plane. I came, got the hotel. I paid attention to what was happening. I got the information. I took the notes. I'm taking that with me. I'm going to use it. So flip that script on yourself from being judgmental to being encouraging. See, if you get in the habit of encouraging yourself, you're going to encourage others. No greater joy than being a positive impact on somebody else. I'm telling you, that's where a lot of the juice comes from, when you can encourage someone else. Be encouraging to them. So we want to stay in the positive, 80-85%. The negative is going to be there, and we do have to pay attention to what's going on. We have got to pay attention to all our freedoms and our ability to create our own businesses and entrepreneurship. We're going to have to protect that. As you can see now, it's under attack. Our freedom's under attack. Our freedom of speech. Our marketplace is under attack. Our ability to be a capitalist is under attack, and we got to pay attention to that. Years ago, I wasn't so sensitive to that. I didn't know that was happening. My wife's from Cuba. She's sensitive to it. She says, right there, what's happening right there, that's communism. That's what communists do. No, first they take that away. See, first they control the media. See, then you don't have those books anymore. See, then they won't let you do that. Then you can't talk about the government. So she sees it. She's sensitive to that. Now, we, growing up here in this country, sometimes aren't so sensitive to that, but we can learn from others. I've learned from interacting, being around my wife and her family. I've learned. So now my eye is becoming more sensitive to those things. And so I'm paying attention, and we have to, in a way, we got to be involved in the fight to protect those things. And you know why? Immigrants, legal immigrants who come to this country are 4 times more likely to become millionaires than people who grew up here, like myself, who grew up here? Because we don't see the forest for the trees. We don't see the opportunities many times. Some of us do, some of us don't, or we don't see them all. But when you come from another country and you get here and you say, wait a minute, I can become a citizen. I wasn't born here. I can still become an American. I can be an American. It's an ideal. It's not a race. I want to be an American. I can become an American. I'm an American now. What can I do? When you come here, you're 4 times more likely to be a millionaire. And guess what? In most cases, Language is not your first. Usually English is not your first language. You probably don't have as good an education, although today maybe you have a better education. It's probably not your first language, and it probably is not your first knowledge of finances. It probably isn't the currency you grew up in. Not your first language. Strange country. Second language. Second time knowledge of finances, and yet you're 4 times more likely to become a millionaire because you see the opportunities that are available to you and some of it's because other doors are shut to you. So the only doors open are creativity and starting your own business, right? Now, we're not going to hire you. Maybe there's some prejudice there. You're an immigrant. You didn't go to school here. You don't have a degree. You're not getting hired here. So now, I can start my own business? Can you imagine you come here from another country? I can start. How many businesses can I start? Well, as many as you want. What do you mean? No. How many businesses am I allowed by the government to legally start? No, as many as you want. Now, you got to pay the government. You got to pay a portion of your money to the government to pay for services that the government provides, federal and state. Well, I don't mind doing that, but how many businesses can I have? I want to as many as you want. How much money, though? How much money can I make? What's the cap on the money that I'm allowed to make by the government before they say, I take all the rest? And they don't. You can make as much money as you want. Your tax rate may vary. You can make as much money as you want. Take all your money in. Pay your taxes. You get to keep all the rest. I can have as many businesses as I want, and I can make as much money as I want in this country, and I can be a citizen. Yes. So now you can see why someone would have a different perspective coming to this country and the opportunities that they would see and that they would exercise those opportunities because of where they came from and the perspective that they bring to the country. And so, of course, we can do that at any age, at any time. That's why I got the hustle. And if you got the hustle, I'm telling you, let me know what your hustle is, because I like to hang around people who have the hustle, right? They love achieving. They joyfully achieve. They're always rejoicing in life. They know that the process is the pleasure, not the outcome. Not that we don't want great outcomes. Not that we don't want to get great results. Not that our goals, most of them, are going to be result focused, but really the joy is in the process of doing. And we need to, the more we decouple from the results, focus more on the creating and the producing of great content, the better that we're going to be, the more our businesses are going to thrive. And so that's what I'm learning to do more and more today. It's been my problem in the past. I get caught up in the results. I let that be a judgment on myself instead of focusing more on the creativity and the producing, because that's where the juice is, and that's what I love doing. And I jumped on here today I was so inspired by Gary Vee from Vaynerchuk, the Gary Vee Experience, his podcast. Go check it out, YouTube. He got me so psyched up that I jumped on the mic, jumped on the camera, no script, no teleprompter, no show notes, speaking from the heart. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know I'm just speaking from the heart. And I wanted to get this out to you guys today because I'm feeling the hustle. It's as strong as ever. I don't think I've peaked yet. I'm 65. If you're younger, guess what? When you get to this age and older, doesn't have to go away, doesn't have to wane. You can peak later. I'm going to peak around 90, 95. I may start slowing down then. I think I will. Maybe I'll put that down in paper. Going to slow down 95. Maybe. I got the hustle on. I hope you do too. And listen, if you're listening and or watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That's a lawful order, by the way. And hit that bell so you're notified when new videos come out. And if you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, subscribe to the podcast. Leave a comment and or review, because it tells the platform that you're interacting with the show, and they show it to more people that are involved in this space, which is personal growth, motivation, inspiration, self-improvement, the stuff that we have total control over. Hey, I love you. I'm glad you checked in today. I got the hustle. Hope you do too. And if you do, let me know in the comments.